I wasn't able to kind of make decisions and stand by them. I had a really deep sense of sort of imposter syndrome. My confidence sort of plummeted. I was kind of questioning myself, things that I was doing.
Because the moment I was like, no, I'm not going on payroll, I need to invoice. They were like, oh, and let's add, I had my child at 16. So I was more like, no, I can't do that. They're like, child, why is everything wrong with you? You're holding a baby and holding an invoice.
And I spent the money on the offices, and we were getting it all kitted out, and we had a launch and everything, and literally within 4 weeks the turnover plummeted. And I kept thinking next month it'll be better, and started ploughing in money to keep the business going, to keep the staff on.
I didn't really have that much money. I had my savings, but I don't come from a family of privilege. I come from a working class family. So I had all of these kind of barriers that at the time I didn't realise were barriers. I just got on with it and just moved. I moved without thinking. I had an idea.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur Stories, where I share interviews and the stories of phenomenal women in business. If you are new here, please make sure you click that subscribe button. And if you're not already doing so, make sure that you follow on social media at She's the Boss INTL. I have been running the She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur series for I think about 2 years now, and this is going to be the new season. So I stopped doing my interviews in April of 2020, and it's now August 2020, and I'm starting with a fresh new intro and a new range of guests. So I hope that you stick around, because today I am joined by the founder of Nango Malinki, Brenda Malinki. So thank you for joining me for the first episode of the new series.
You. I feel really honoured to be first one of series 2. So we've got to go out. We've got to start it off with a bang.
Well, we have to. But yeah. I didn't even remember that you were the first until 2 minutes before this started. So
I love it.
So happy to know that.
I love it already.
Start off with a bang.
If I do nothing else for the rest of the year, this is it. This is my apex.
I love it. So tell us some more about Nango Malinki. What do you do? What led you to doing it? What is the kind of aim and mission of the business?
Okay, so the simple mission is to get people selling more, better. So I went to university and studied biomedical science. The original plan was to do biomedical science and then go on to do medicine. But here I am talking about sales and selling and haven't done any biomedical science at all. So I fell into sales really quite by accident. You know, when people read the little earn £250 a week. Yeah. Well, back in the day, it used to be £250 a week. I think these days it would be like £1,000 a week equivalent. And I thought, well, I've got debts and I need to earn money. And at the time I was stacking shelves in Marks and Spencer's, which was a really fun job, but it was not paying the bills. So I went up for the interview and the guy said, well, you're going to have to pick up the phone, sell this advertising to these names on this page. And I went, oh, it looks easy enough. I'm just calling people. How bad can it be? So I ditched my M&S job and I haven't looked back really. Fast forward to 2020 March, bam, we had a pandemic and I was put on furlough, and nobody even knew what furlough was before we knew what furlough was. Mm-hmm. And I've worked all my life. I've worked from when I was 16, and furlough initially was a big shock. It hit my ego badly because I'm a top performer. I've always hit my number and I'm really good at my job. And I was like, oh, hang on, this is hurtful. I could be useful. And then I had to process all of that. And when I worked through all of that, I was like, I like working. I actually like working. Although I'm sat at home in my garden growing flowers and tending to the lawn, I like working. It gives me a buzz. And I remember distinctly feeling like a fraudster. Like, have I made it all up in my mind? Was I really that good at my job? Or am I, surplus to requirements? I wasn't thinking that in a sense of redundancies or anything like that. It was literally, how useful am I? Mm-hmm. And I think you are one of the ladies, so I'm part of the Dope Black Mums, which is how I came across Daniela. And I think I posted a very open, very raw, I'm feeling like an imposter. and I'm really struggling with what my worth is. And that's quite possibly the most important message I've ever sent in a group chat, because the response was phenomenal. It was just all these really amazing women, these high achievers, they're so brilliant, and they just stopped doing what they were doing to read my message and tell me, no, you're not an imposter, just take some time to think about it. And that's exactly what I did. And the day after my son's birthday, I thought, right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to teach people how to sell, because I can sell and I have taught people how to sell and I'm really good at it. So I'm going to go out and figure it out while I'm on furlough. So I registered a company, wrote to my directors and said, this is what I'm trying to do. Are we in breach of anything? They gave me the all clear. So that was on 30th of May, I registered, and we're practically in August. So practically 2 full months of trading. It's going really, really well. So Nango Malinki came about because I didn't want to not do anything, and it was an ideal time for me to give it a go. With the encouragement of loads of strangers that I've never met, never spoke to. I'm just a number in their phone. And as for Nango Malinki and why I didn't use Brenda Malinki, so Nango is one of my names from childhood. So I wanted something that reflected me, that was very personal to me, and but I didn't want to put my name out there because internet trolls and all that. So although the degree of separation is not that great, so there's not that many Malinkis out there, and I suspect that all the Malinkis are related, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, so that's how Nango Malinki came out. So it is actually my name, and all my relatives will know exactly who. If you say Nango, they'll know exactly who you're talking about. But I like the twist, and it's not too difficult to pronounce, and Brenda sounds really old. Brenda sounds like, no disrespect, like a 75-year-old white woman's going to turn up.
Well, funnily enough, my auntie's called Brenda, and she's not 70, and she's clearly not a white lady. She's
white. Yeah.
So
it's a name that I can grow into. No, I think within Black people it's not an uncommon name, but in white people circles it's a bit like everybody that I know that's a Brenda and white is really old. No. It's a name that I'm growing into, but hey, so that's how Nango Malinki came about.
So I have so many questions, but I want to preface it first with saying I love the fact that the first interviewee of the new season is someone that's new in business, because one of the key things I wanted to do with this series is not just focus on those that have been in businesses for 10, 15 years, but look at the full spectrum. So I really love the fact that you're very new to this, because I think you're going to come at it from a completely different angle to many of my other previous interviewees. Firstly, you said that you studied, what was it, biomedical
science.
So I'm really confused. How did you get from biomedical science to Marks and Spencer?
Okay.
I don't understand what happened.
So I was looking, I don't know if you guys had it, but when you were sort of in sixth form, you used to do these yearbooks. And back in the day, it was all very rudimentary, where you'd go in the photocopy and somebody who was really good at art would go and and I found mine, and it said, in 10 years time I want to be a scientist finding the cures for this, that. International scientist, very, very specific. So as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to be a scientist, and I've always wanted to do medicine, and wanted to study science and be at the cutting edge of research. And I really enjoyed learning science. I really, even till today, I'll read science papers for fun. That's a part of me that I think I can indulge in learning for learning's sake. However, a series of events happened towards the end of my degree. I lost my mum. I took on responsibilities for my younger sister and cousins who my mum had adopted. So I had loads and loads of responsibilities. And I wasn't coping very well. And at the time, I didn't realize I wasn't coping. I just thought that's how life was. And the idea of going to find a job in a lab and working towards my career was really quite frightening. And because my mum had gone, I was like, well, it's no point doing medicine now. My mum's not here. What's the point? Because I'd always anchored my success in getting my mum to say, well done, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah, so I got a part-time job in Marks and Spencer's, and then more hours came up, and I just it paid the bills. I woke up in the morning, I went to work, and I came back. I'd applied to do a biomedical science placement, so you need to do 1 year's pre-reg, and I lasted exactly 3 weeks because I didn't like the work environment. I didn't like the work. I was overwhelmed with the fact that if I made a mistake, it was somebody's life at the end of those set of results. So, that was a lot more scary than working in Marks and Spencer's. The worst things I could do is give somebody change for £20 instead of £10. So at that time, it was exactly what I needed. Looking back, but again, it's sort of formed how I look at mentorship and supporting people and saying the right things and encouraging people, because I genuinely believe that if I had somebody there to really guide me and say, what are you doing? Where are you going with this? You wanted to do medicine. Why are you stopping? Let's have a look at this in more detail. I think my life would have taken a completely different direction, and perhaps giving up the dream of being a doctor wouldn't have been on the cards. It would have just been a different route to there. That being said, I am not unhappy in my in my career right now, and I'm not unhappy in where I've ended up. It would have just been very different, or perhaps I'd have had all the options laid on the table before I decided it wasn't for me. So that's how I ended up doing M&S from Biomedical Science. I don't know if that answers it well enough, but it is a crazy journey.
Yeah, I was gonna say you said biomedical science, Marks and Spencer, sales, own business. Like, what a beautiful story.
But for the first time in maybe more than anybody could have predicted, my biomedical science background, telecoms background, completely merged when coronavirus kicked off with 5G. I was like, I understand both of those really, really well. When they're calling an expert on TV and I was that person they should have been calling. Like, you do telecoms and you understand both of these. Can you explain them in one go? So I've also been very lucky in the sense that all the jobs that I've had in my career, I've never been stuck in one industry. So I've been able to work across multiple vectors. I've looked after local government, I've looked after big corporations, I've looked after leisure, I've looked after travel, I've looked after education. So having that broad customer base always has made life really, really exciting. And I know probably a little bit about everything out there, and maybe not enough about everything, but there isn't a company that you can throw at me where I'll say, I don't have a clue about that, because I would have dealt with somebody. So that keeps it exciting.
That sounds it. So obviously you started in the sales, then Corona happened and you decided to go it alone. What have been some of the kind of biggest fears and the biggest excitements about this journey? So you're like 2 and a bit months in now. What scares you the most about kind of continuing down this road, and what excites you the most?
Failure. I absolutely hate the idea of failing. And I know that at some point I will fail, and I'm ready for it. But it also drives me to make sure that I'm looking out for it, and that I don't realize I've arrived at the failing destination before I've got there. I'm looking out for the signs. I think that's it for me. Failure is the biggest fear, but it also motivates me to open up, to dig deeper, to learn, to stay up late. And the best thing is, I love what I do. I really, really love what I do, and I'm good at it. And seeing results, like, oh my goodness, I had this conversation with this person. They've gone away to do what I've asked them to do, and they're getting results. That for me is the biggest thing. When I received my first payment into my new company bank account, I was absolutely buzzing. I was like, I can't believe how good this is. This feels amazing. I was saying to my cousin, I was like, I understand now why people say I'll never work for anybody again when they get it, when the penny clicks, or the penny drops, or the whatever it is clicks. For me, that was really exciting. I think the best thing is I've always had loads of ideas in my head. When you're working full time and you're dedicated to your job, which I am, and I love my job, I love my clients, and I love my team. Being on furlough has meant I've been able to take a step back and just think about what it is that I'm good at. and really push and really work on those things. And I find that really exciting. Learning new skills has been really exciting. Being forced to network. 2020 is a really funny year. It's just been so crazy. I have met more new people since April of this year than I could have done for another 10 years. Honestly, it's just been unbelievable. And the best thing is, and that I've realized, is that people are really open to meeting new people once the barriers have gone down. The leveler has been coronavirus, and people are just really open. I mean, I'm in all these WhatsApp groups, I'm on Zoom calls, and I'm like, I've seen that person on TV. I know that person on TV, and here they are. I've got access to their phone numbers. They're like, yeah, reach out anytime. So that's really made it really exciting for me, because I can bounce off ideas, I can ask for help, I can reach out to my network, I can add value to people, and value to businesses. But from the business perspective, it's actually just realizing that I can make money out of the stuff that I know and that I do outside of working for my employer. That's been really, really exciting.
So really then, there wasn't ever a moment previously where you thought, I'd like to start a business. It's really been circumstantial. And like, if we went back 2 years ago, was that thing in your head that one day I want to start a business? Or was it literally this situation arose and you thought, why not?
Yeah. So I remember having a conversation last year with my manager. So we had a change of team, and I started reporting into somebody new, but somebody that I'd worked with, and I'd known him for a long time, really good friends. And he said, Bren, what's the plan? You know, where are you? What are you thinking? And I said, well, my kids are still young, but I don't want to be doing this job forever and a day, and I've got a plan eventually to go off on my own and do a consultancy type thing. It was very vague, very no specific timeline, just when the kids are a little bit bigger. He nailed me down a little bit, and I said, well, my youngest, when he starts secondary school and they're both in the same place and a little bit more independent, then I can go out and do it, then I can do this. But looking back, I think those have all just been excuses. But that being said, the biggest difference, like you said, is circumstantial. I found myself with loads and loads of time on furlough, which meant I have got some income coming in. So the biggest barrier to taking that jump, particularly when you've got responsibilities, is, will I be financially okay? Will I have a roof over my head? Will my kids be all right? I'm not saying that will I maintain the same lifestyle. I'm just saying, can I cover the basics while I'm growing? And what furlough has allowed me to do is actually explore those options with that bit of a safety net, so I can try and see how that's worked out. So a bit of circumstance, being forced into that position, and all those excuses being removed from me. So you haven't got enough time to start off. Well, actually, you've got nothing but time. That you can't go out, the kids are not at school. I co-parent, so I have the kids 1 week on, and they'll be at their dad's another week. So I was having literally weeks of nothingness. There's only so many quizzes one person can come up to, present and host and join in before your brain starts to turn to mush, especially if you'd never retained any of the information. I should know how many parishes there are in Jamaica. I couldn't tell you because this question comes up all the time. I am just rubbish at retaining information. So for me, I think it's a combination of it. It was always in the back of my mind that I would do it. But it was like, I don't know if some people have this way, they say, I'm going to go to the Bahamas one day, or I'm going to go to Bora Bora one day, and they never do it. It's just something that they talk about. So I'll stop being a talker and start being a doer out of circumstance, and just really all the options that, well, don't worry about the kids not being in school because everybody's homeschooling now. So it doesn't matter that they're not in the same school. Financially, you can put a roof over your head while you try this out, push out time. You've got plenty of time. Resources, everybody's just working off a laptop and a phone. You don't need an office. You don't need, so all of those things that are normally barriers to entry, or things that I told myself I would need to have in place before I made the jump, were cleared away nicely. And yeah.
Yeah, I love it. One of the things that I was thinking, however, is not even a however, but as an additional point, you didn't waste any time, did you? Because you started in April. it's only a couple of months after and you've already got paying clients. So you're
Yeah.
clearly a testament to how good you are at what you do in terms of teaching people how to do sales, because you've been able to do it yourself. It's not very often that I hear someone say they started a business and within a 2-month time frame, they're already getting paid for doing what they do. So well done.
Thank you. That was the biggest buzz. I shared the screenshot with my best friend. I can't believe I've got a paying client. So yeah, one of the things that I think I should do is look at the timeline from when I registered the business, registered a bank account, sent out a contract, and got paid for it. And the best thing about that, and I want to say this to everybody, I got paid before I did the work. So it's cash up front. If it's good enough for Asda and Tesco and Apple, it's good enough for me. This is cash up front, and that's it. You pay us, and we'll do the work. If there's a dispute, we'll sort that out.
Though? Sorry, I completely just cut you.
No, that's fine.
Confidence-wise, because I get paid up front, and I always have, even with my previous businesses. But there's a lot of people that will go into business and kind of like namby-pamby around the issue, and you can pay me. Like what
No. We are in business to make money. Okay. This is it. The bottom line is, and I've been so privileged to work for a team. We call ourselves the Mavericks in our company. We came through from a very small buyout, but we understand, and I understood very, very early on that this is business. It's not an emotional thing. You can make friends, but a business is a straight exchange for services and goods for money. That's it. I have my terms and conditions. If you're not happy with them, let's talk about it. But ultimately, if you're doing a good service and that's something that somebody wants, you don't. You need to park all the. This is part of selling. I think from being a sales, part of selling is you are going to get something out of this. You're not giving me money for free. And I think people forget that. I think everybody forgets that this is not you give me money and you're getting nothing out of it. And what I would recommend anybody in business, have some T's and C's, no matter how basic they are, have some T's and C's, because that secures you in terms of what you're prepared to do, on what you're going to deliver, and what you're expecting from your customer, because there'll be some times where you'll expect them to turn up on time, and if they don't, you've got something that says, I was waiting for you for half an hour, you're not getting a refund because you didn't bother turning up. And that's what they've signed up to, and that's what they've agreed to. So if you've got those things in place, that if disputes and if something crops up, you know how to deal with it, always ask for the money. Always ask for the money. For me, it's just a no-brainer. I wish more people would do it, because that will sort out your cash flow. It means that also I have to work a little bit harder, because that guy's paid me. He needs me to be ready on time to deliver. Because if I am late, guess what he's going to go? He's going to go in LinkedIn. He's going to go to Instagram. Oh my gosh, she took my money. She never turned up, and her Zoom never worked. Her internet wasn't sorted. So the confidence comes from knowing that I can deliver what I'm saying I'm going to do, and also it's not a free service. They're paying for a premium service, and that's what they're going to get. And anybody who knows what they're looking for and what they want to get, and they accept that what you're selling or what you're giving is the right product, they will have no problems paying for it. And if they do, it's an open conversation. Have a conversation about it, but it's not a default setting to get paid in 20 never. That's just not why we're in business.
I don't understand when people say, I did this and they didn't pay me, and I'm like, why weren't you already paid?
Why did you deliver? I would never go to an iPhone store and say, please, Mr. iPhone store, please, can I have your latest iPhone plus, and can I pay you? They will get paid, whether I go with a credit. If I go and sign up for credit, guess what? They're getting paid, and the risk is going to somebody else. Maybe that's what you need to do in business. If your clients are consistently saying they can't pay, farm out that risk to somebody else, so you always get paid. It means that you might get a little bit less, but get a company that specializes in taking that risk on. That's why leasing companies exist. There's companies out there that will do that for you, but make sure you get paid.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very bang on point that many people need to listen and to internalize. But I think the issue is a lot of people are in business and are scared of money and don't make money a priority.
Yeah.
And with the clients that I work with, that's one of the key things I'm always drilling home. Are you running a charity or is this a business? And actually, even a charity has to make.
Even if you're a charity,
Yeah,
you've got objectives.
You have to make some
You're
money.
not. You have to make some money. You have deliverables. I'm doing the corporate, but you have a job to do. Even if you're a charity, you're expecting time, you're expecting energy back, whatever it is that you're expecting back. You don't just wake up in the morning. Nobody does this for the fun of it.
Well,
You might enjoy it while you're doing it, but you don't. You've still got bills to pay, and it's. I think part of it as well that I've realized this might be the same as what you do a little bit, or where it might be overlap, is that in selling, people often think their buyers are like them. So I'll give you an example. What I mean is if you're not somebody who's used to spending, if you're somebody who's not used to, I'm going to use myself as an example, and this is really terrible and really vain. If you don't go and spend £25 on lipstick and you spend £2.99, you will find it really, really hard at £25 lipstick because you don't see the value in that. If you're somebody who doesn't appreciate how much time costs, you will never be able to sell your services for what your time is worth, because you'll always think, how can you charge that amount? How can you charge? You're always trying to justify downwards. So in sales, I say to people, if that's your personality, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, you will have to train your brain to park that before you talk to your clients. Because I know for a fact, and I can't remember the name of the study, and this made me like, wow, this is incredible. So I think it was Fendi, or is it LVH, the company that owns all the big top brands and very high-end handbags and all this sort of stuff. They had a handbag which was like £15,000. I can't remember the exact figures, but let's just say for argument's sake it was £15,000, and they benchmarked the number of sales. Let's say they sold 10. They reduced the price, same handbag, nothing different, no sales. They just reduced the price and by 50%. The handbag did not sell. They increased the price by 50%, the same handbag, no fanfare, just a little bit of a price change on a sticker, and they sold twice as much.
Wow.
So money is not the issue. Perception and understanding of what you're buying is the issue. Now, some people just understand that LVH bag is not just a Louis Vuitton bag, it's not just a Louis Vuitton bag. It's got so much more to it, and they're prepared to pay for that. And I think in business, people forget to add the value, and we are scared of saying those big numbers. There's a skill to saying this contract's going to cost you £3 million over the next 3 years. People think, oh my God, I can't say it. Take a deep breath. And you can see them saying it and holding their breath and going, this is the bit where they tell me to go away and never come back. But it's not, because you're selling something that's worth £3 million over 3 years. It's not free money. You're giving them a service. So from a selling...
Go on.
Yeah, so from a selling perspective, that's the sort of stuff that I drill in and I teach people, and I really draw out all of these preconceptions that people have, because everybody has them. Even I suffer from them, and I have to remind myself that if I'm going to sell a £25 lipstick, I've got to understand why it's £25, and I've got to park aside my penchant for spending £2.99 on other brands, because it's not the same thing.
Yeah. I am that person that spends £2.99 on. No, in fact, this lip gloss I think was £4.99 if I'm honest. But yeah, I don't spend lots of money on makeup, but I 100% get the point, and that's my point also with my clients. I will spend £4.99 on lip gloss, but that doesn't mean that that's what everybody else does. So if I'm going to bring lip gloss to the market, am I going to sell it for £4.99 because I want to buy it for £4.99? Or am I going to sell it for what it's worth or what I can get? And I think that's a really important lesson. And even a lesson that I had to learn myself with my business, because when I first kind of started doing this specifically with this business, I grossly undervalued myself. And it was funny because I've put my price up a couple of times, but there was one point where I put my prices up for a specific product or package quite substantially.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, it was the same kind of principle. It was one of the packages that was not selling. At the point that I put the price up significantly, it started to sell. It was really weird. In terms of what you said about time as well, I am more a time person than necessarily a money person. So when I'm costing out my packages and stuff, I'm looking at, okay, how much time is this going to take me? And I always find it really weird when I speak to service providers and they're not incorporating their full time into the cost of something.
Yeah.
Or they say
there's
stuff
planning.
like, or they say
there's
stuff
travel.
like, I'm going to do that
there's
anyway.
delivery.
And I'm like, no, your time is money. And actually, one of the important parts of focusing on time and not just money is the fact that when you're trying to scale your business, if you're taking on extra staff, the stuff that you're saying you're going to do for free and not count into the price of things, you're going to have to pay somebody else. Now, what do you do?
Somebody else to do it.
So
now your costs have gone up significantly because you've never costed for them.
Yeah, which is why I always say, even if you, in the first kind of short period, you want to kind of put a little bit of a discount, always still include the real true cost, which includes your time, into the overall kind of financial planning of your business. Because what you don't want to do is suddenly start to scale and then have to double your prices, because unless you are Louis Vuitton, you might get some pushback from your from the marketplace. If you go up a little bit, it's not that significant of an issue. But if you start doubling and tripling and quadrupling, that might
you start asking, you give people the opportunity to say, oh, what's going on here? Why the big jump? And then people go, oh, something fishy. Or have you ever asked the question, why is it so cheap?
Yes, for sure. And I
will walk away for something. It's like, why is it so cheap? Something's wrong. Buy cheap, buy twice. It's too good to be true. Yeah. So it's not everybody is buying on price. That's what we have to remember. And your time is money. We say this, people say it all the time. Time is money. Money never sleeps. Cash is king. And then they do exact opposite.
Yes.
I don't get it.
Definitely. So I want to move away from sales now, because one of the reasons that I wanted to interview you specifically is because I wanted to have a conversation with you about self-talk. So we've had a conversation in one of the WhatsApp groups that we're in about negative self-talk. Yeah, and I thought it would be really good for us to continue that conversation here.
Yeah.
Specifically for a number of reasons. And it's interesting, over the past kind of couple of months with the kind of lockdown, I've been doing a lot more online stuff. So I've been doing loads of lives and webinars, and I've had a few people say to me, oh, you're so confident, it comes so natural to you. And when I've said, actually, no, I'm quite introverted. I'm also very awkward socially. I can be incredibly awkward socially. People have kind of said, that's ridiculous, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
So, and you also come across to me as somebody very confident, very sure of themselves.
I'm the girl at the party who's nursing a drink in the corner, just observing everything. And if somebody comes to talk to me, I'm like, they're coming to talk to me. No.
But yeah, and I think
spill the drink on yourself so you don't have to talk to somebody.
I think it's really important to have these conversations, because I think there's a lot of people that may see me or you out and about or online or in a WhatsApp group and think, oh, they've got it all together and they're so confident and nothing would faze them. When actually, when you dig a little bit deeper, and
it's not the case at all.
Yeah, and I've spoken to a lot of women throughout this kind of process of doing She's the Boss who have said that at different points they've suffered from imposter syndrome, that they're naturally introverted, they don't like networking. And even for me, it's been surprising the amount of people that I've come across that actually are quite similar. So yeah, it would be a great place for us to kind of dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
So tell us.
Full disclosure, I'm really, really shy and I don't like approaching people, and I'm always scared of saying the wrong thing or making a fool of myself or saying something and everybody going, well, I thought she was the expert. Well, why is she coming up with this? I remember having to do a presentation in front of the directors or CEOs and CIOs, and I put on my best dress and I put on my high heels and I had my car cleaned because I wanted to make sure that when I've arrived, I'm not the one with the dirty car inside and out, because I didn't want things falling out of the car. And this was a big thing. You know, I was confident I'd done my homework. I was confident I understood the brief. All I was going to do is have a chat with them, and I was the expert, and these guys did not know a thing about setting up internet connectivity, mobile phone contracts, and all this sort of stuff. And I can tell you now, I was sat outside in the car having a conversation with myself at what the worst things that's going to happen to me. I was like, yeah, but you're going to walk in and you're going to say something and they'll all be blank faces. And you're going to walk in. And I remember sort of somehow arriving that they were not lions. I'm like, they're not going to kill you. They're not lions. They're just people, you know, just internal dialogue of actually having to G myself up to get out. I was like, you're going to turn up and the receptionist is going to say, your name's not there. You don't have a meeting today. I'm like, right, check that on the phone. And it happens all the time. But to overcome it, it's a skill. It's learned like anything. You learn the processes that you have to go through to get to the place where you can be that expert, you can be really confident, and you've got the feedbacks in your mind that are saying, yeah, you know what you're talking about, you know what you're talking about. And when I'm in the zone, I'll give you 110%. You will not tell that there was a silly conversation happening in the car about whether I should get out or drive back out and just say, I'm sorry, something happened, or, you know, there was an accident on the motorway and I'm sorry I couldn't make it. So I have those feelings all the time. But the more you work at it, the more you say, right, I have a task, I've got to complete it. I will not die from this task because my brain is trying to protect me from death. So death is the ultimate thing. That's all my brain is trying to do. The primitive part of my brain is going, this is really dangerous. It doesn't understand that I'm not facing a lion. It doesn't understand that there isn't a big cheetah chasing me. My brain's just thinking, this is really dangerous. We could die from this. But the reality is we're not going to die. And that's where I think the social, once you understand why you're socially awkward, once you understand why your brain and your body reacts the way it does, there's so much information out there, and there's so many techniques that everybody can tweak to suit themselves and to work on, to mean that they can come out and network, get what they need, and then retreat back into their little worlds and say, whew, that was scary. But I know that great actors get stage fright and they have to work through. Some sports people have, I can't remember who it was, but he wears the same underpants. I think, is it Michael Jordan? He wears the same underpants and he's worn the same ones because that's part of his routine that says to his mind, we're going to be safe. We've got everything in place. That means we're going to be absolutely amazing. We're going to be fine. That's how I look at it. It's okay to be shy, ladies. It's absolutely fine. There's nothing, you can't change your core being, but you can do something about those feelings. They're not set in stone.
No, I love that. I think for me, the main thing is the perception, which really it's not my problem what other people think, but it makes me feel uncomfortable when people think that when I say I'm shy or introverted, that I'm like, do you think I'm lying? Like, if I say that I am, then I am.
Please believe me, I am.
Yeah, it's weird. And
I'm doing a really good job of obviously fooling you guys into thinking I'm not this shy, introverted person. But believe me, I am really struggling on the inside.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's also about different
It's a real thing.
Wow. So like the Zoom stuff, interestingly, it's the computer. And actually, that's why I think throughout this period of us being locked down, I've managed to be so visible and network so well, because as you said before, there's the barrier that I felt of having to physically be in front of someone has been removed. And worst comes to the worst, anything happens online, I could just close my computer screen and continue about my merry day.
You know, yeah. So technical glitch, we'll continue this another day, thanks.
Yeah, sorry, it's not working.
There's always an out.
Whereas in person, I'm very much aware of the physical responses my body has.
Yeah.
In nerve kind of wracking environment.
Yeah.
That also, it goes for social environments. So another thing that I really hate, and I've really tried, I had to force myself to get over, is going to kids' parties with my daughter.
I think we had a discussion about, I hate them.
It makes me just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to try and speak to, and I think one of the key things as well is I'm not very good at small talk.
I'm not good at small talk.
Yes, that's what it is.
No, I want us to have meaningful conversation. I don't want to talk about the weather.
But we can't have meaningful conversation if we don't know each other. So there has to be small talk. And then that's where I trip up, and I always end up saying something really stupid, and then I'm like, oh my God. And then I can feel myself getting hot. Like I always say, if I was white, my face would be red most of the time. because I internally can feel
Oh,
it.
I'll be the one that goes red from the neck up, and you could see it because I can feel it I can feel my anxiety. I can feel it going up, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, and the fact that you're being forced in that situation because you happen to attend the same school, happen to be in the same class, and they're not even friends. They've just invited the whole class. You're having to be forced. Like, well, as my kids grew older and the invitations got smaller and smaller and smaller, oh, I was so thankful. I was like, at least I know these guys. I don't need to pretend so much with these guys. It's just 5 of them. For me, like you were saying about lockdown, is that I've been able to do Zooms and stuff in my own space where I'm really comfortable, where I know everything is and everything's safe. Whereas in regular world, I'm mostly going to other people's sites. I never know what to expect. I never know what they look like. I never know. And all of those unknowns, is my computer going to plug in properly? Is everything going to work where I need it to work? Will everything arrive on time? Has something happened between our last conversation and now that's going to be sprung up on me that I wasn't aware of? You can't run out of a boardroom. Well, you can try, but it's not a good look. It's not a good look. So
how do you think you're going to navigate that when normal, hopefully at some point, normal life resumes? Obviously, being able to build relationships and network is an integral part of running a business, and it's something that for me, I've had to front it out to be able to generate sales and all of that stuff. How do you think you're going to manage that? Well, you've kind of alluded to that by saying you've got techniques and stuff, but you're obviously going to have to be more visible. How do you think that you're going to manage that once the new normal is over and we go back to the normal?
The old normal.
Yeah.
I think much in the same way. So I've always had to tell myself, I rationalize everything. Not to any great detail. I'm not writing War and Peace, but I'll sit down and say, right, I need network because when I network, this will happen. So that becomes my objective very, very quickly. It's very loud. It's on a post-it note. In my mind, it's like a big pink bright thing just by there. You're going to network because you're going to meet people, because that's where you're going to get your leads, and that's where you're going to get your contracts, or that's where you're going to get people do stuff for you that you need to be done. And then the rest is just trying to see what I need to do to get to that point. So if it means that, right, what you'll need to do is 2 networking events, or you need to book 2 meetings, or you need to get onto the phone and speak to people, then that's just part of the process that I need to, because the objective is very loud and very clear. I think that when I struggled with networking and picking up the phone is when I didn't really have a crystal clear reason why I was doing it. But I think what 2020, and by 20, I mean pandemic 2020, has taught me is that people want to make those connections with people that want to make those connections. So people are really open. And I hope that if anything that's changed in business land moving forward is that all the unnecessary singing and dancing and all the little, we can't meet with you this week because there's something else going on, or he's not available, and actually gatekeepers doing their thing through a gatekeeper. So I hope that flexibility and that availability carries on. But my anxieties about meeting people, I think I have a new blanket that I'm hiding behind, and it's called I'm too anxious because COVID-19 is around and I don't want to get sick. So that's something that I'm going to have to work out on, because I'm extremely risk averse. And I have visions of myself in 2022 still refusing to go out because I don't want to catch COVID, but the whole world's moved on. So that's the new anxiety that I have, and that's something that I'm going to have to work around. So if everybody starts moving back and I start to see that it's safe, that's a conversation that I have internally with myself, and I rationalize it. So right, here's the objective, here are the risks, here's how we mitigate those risks. Now go out and do it.
It's interesting because my anxiety is not about catching COVID. It's not even an anxiety. I think I've just become very comfortable in my house. Like, I actually like being at home.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoy being at home.
I've always been a homebody.
Yeah.
I've always been a homebody. So this is an extra bonus for me. And the fact that people don't just wander in because they're in the neighborhood, bonus. I don't need to clean up at the last minute.
I went out on the weekend, and that for me was just like, oh, why can't someone just come to my house and do all these things for me? I don't really want to go anywhere. But I forced myself out because I'm like, I can see that I'm getting far too used to staying inside, and I don't want that to become a thing that actually I can't come out. And particularly because just before the lockdown, I had committed to going out regularly, to like going to at least one networking or social event per week, because I'd recognized that I was starting to become a bit hermit-like, and it wasn't healthy. It's not a great way for me to build up a personal brand by hiding away in my house all the time.
But now we can come into your house and you can show, you can be in the office all the time. It makes it really easy. But I think for me, it's actually just having somebody who says to me, are you doing what you said you're going to do? Being accountable. So if I commit to going out once a month to those physical places when things start getting back to normal, then I'll have to work out, mitigate the risks.
3 pieces of advice that you would give to a lady starting out in business.
So, first bit of advice is think like a mediocre white man. And I don't mean this in a derogatory term. I promise you, hear me out. Mediocre white guy just goes for it. He doesn't even realize he's mediocre. And he asks for the biggest price. And guess what? He always gets the contract. You do not need to be 100% before you start. Just get started. That's what I mean. So, no disrespect to mediocre white guy. He's doing his thing and he's getting his coins. There's nothing stopping you. Secondly, there is so much support out there. You just have to reach out. You really, really just have to put yourself out there. And thirdly, I'm in the early stages. Decide what your passion is. I think that if you don't have a passion for it, it very soon would get disheartening, because after about 3 or 4 weeks and I wasn't really where I wanted to be, which is really ambitious in itself, because that shows you how naive I am. I'm like, 3 to 4 weeks, where's my contract? What's going on? Come on, bank, you've not opened my bank account yet. How am I going to run a business? Honestly, who does that? But if you have a passion for it, you'll keep getting up, you pick up the phone, you'll reach out, you'll find yourself working at 4 a.m. in the morning, not because you're desperate to do it, because you're actually enjoying it. So think like mediocre white man. You don't need to be 100%. Just get started. Even if you're at 20%, you're going to grow every single interaction that you're going to have. You're going to grow. Reach out for support. People that have done it before you, use them, because people naturally want to share, and they'll talk and they'll give you advice and they'll question you and they'll critique what you're doing. Take that all on board. And thirdly, do what you love. Don't do anything you don't love. It's too much hassle otherwise.
Fabulous. Great advice there. I agree with all of it. And for the newest segment of the She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur Story series, I am building a She's the Boss book listing. All of the books. Well, I'm going to include all the books that I recommend, but each week I'm going to be asking my interview guest what book they would recommend. So it can be any book, but what is the book that you think that all of my listeners, viewers should go out and purchase immediately?
Okay, so as somebody who loves sales and somebody who loves selling, my sales Bible and guru is a guy called Grant Cardone, and the book is Sell or Be Sold. He's going to upset you, he's going to push you, he's going to have you thinking and scratching your head going, who the hell do you think you are? But his net worth is $400 million, and I'm not going to argue with him. And he does that from selling. So I listen to that. I've got it on Audible, and whenever I feel like I'm losing, I've even got chapters that I've got marked for when I'm feeling low about a certain area, and we'll listen to it. And I love that book. There's a couple of other books that I could recommend, but from a selling point and from a business development and understanding the sales process, that's the one. That's the one for me. In fact, I'm going to play it again today. Our Lord and Savior, Grant Cardone, Sell or Be Sold. I should get commission.
No, well, I'm not going to buy it yet, because I bought 9 books in the month of July. So I'm going to wait for another couple of weeks before I'm allowed to purchase another book. But thank you for sharing that.
No, you're most welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much for coming on here. Thank you for sharing your story. I really appreciate you taking out the time. And
thank
well
you.
done for taking that step and getting on with it. And
Thank you.
Sales so quickly.
It's just it's unreal to me, and it's just like I never thought. Like normally my work life is like a customer says yes, and you put up the contract and you send it out. And my customer said yes, and I was like. Contract, yes, that thing. Am I going to get him to sign it? What? I have to pay for that? No. Quickly, get learning. Find an alternative to how that works. So,
And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. As usual, if you haven't already done so, click that subscribe button so that you're the first to know when I release a new episode. Make sure you're following on social media, particularly Instagram, at She's the Boss INTR. And I will catch you again next Sunday at 8 p.m. for another interview with a phenomenal businesswoman. Oh, in fact, before I even continue, we missed a key part of this. Plug. Where do people find out more about Brenda Malinki and Nango Malinki?
Nango Malinki. One in the same. LinkedIn, I have a page. On Instagram, I have a page, and all my socials is my personal ones is at BHMLNK. Don't ask me why that came up. It was what was available on Twitter, and I passed it on. But Nango Malinki, if you search for me, I should come up on all the searches. Funny enough, there's not many things or people called Nango Malinki, but LinkedIn is the best place, as well as the Instagram.
Awesome. Wonderful. I can't believe I nearly forgot that. So I'll catch you again next week, Sunday at 8 p.m. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.